welcome to part 3 on this series of pod vids about Heroes All, Fight Your Own Battles and Fight Your Own Wars. Today a few pre-game basics, more kind of some definitions of some terms so that you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about them. So let's start with the Wargame Day. What does that look like? Well, the Wargame Day is broken up into 24 moves, which we call bounds. 24 bounds divided into 6 sessions of 4 bounds. Now for Heroes All and Fight Your Own Battles, that's not that important, but when we come to Fight Your Own Wars, the campaign side of things, the sessions do become important. I just wanted to introduce that here. So bear in mind that if you're going to play a game, it lasts from midnight to midnight. You're going to be playing 24 bounds. Now later on we'll talk about how those sessions work in terms of daylight and everything else. Very quickly, the 4 seasons are each represented by 3 months of the year, and if you get into the page 2 of Heroes All, you'll see that in summer, autumn, winter and spring the number of daylight and nighttime bounds actually differs per season. A bound itself, what's the definition of a bound? A bound comprises a complete set of turns undertaken by each element on the table, off-table artillery, aircraft, boats, everything. So when everything's had its go, then that's one complete bound. A turn, I use the word turn to refer to the activity that's undertaken by an element during that bound. So in other words, if I've got 3 elements on the table, the bound lasts for as long as my 3 elements all doing their thing, and each element takes a turn during the bound to do what it has to do. Now the second thing I'm going to introduce is a concept which again has less of an impact in Heroes All and Fight Your Own Battles, but does come into play in Fight Your Own Wars, but is a relevant factor here, and that is what I call the box. Now for most people, when you're playing a game, you've always got something on your side of the table waiting to come on. Maybe it's some reserves, maybe it's an aeroplane, whatever it happens to be. Now as far as this series of rules are concerned, where that element is waiting is called the box. The enemy can't attack you if you're in the box, and you can't do anything if you are in the box. Now most people just call that side table or off table, but it does, again, as I say, as the rules develop, you'll see that actually becomes quite an integral part of the table, although it's not on the table. You'll see how that works out as we go forward, but that's the box. Finally, we get to one of the backbones of Fight Your Own Battles and Fight Your Own Wars, but actually comes into play in Heroes All, and that is the fact that the little model soldiers you've got on the table, the officers, do actually make decisions. The whole point of the solo game is that there's less in your control and more in the control of your soldiers on the table, and in order to do that, again, as you see, as the rules develop, these little model soldiers will gain characteristics and traits and all sorts of things, but for now all we need to know is that they are broadly ranked, and for the Heroes All game you only need to rank your junior officers, or NCOs, whatever word you want to give them. These are the guys who lead each of the elements, and we do that simply by throwing a d6, and they are rated between weak, which is basically, you know, pretty poor bloke really, up to inspirational, which is the kind of how would you describe inspirational? Well, you watch any war film and the bloke who's the hero is inspirational. Just one interesting little aside on that though, and that is that if you pile all your men into a truck, the truck gains the ability of the NCO, because obviously he's telling the driver what he wants to do. When that truck is empty, it just becomes plain bog standard regular. So if it's going to drive off and get itself out of trouble, the driver is just treated as regular. There are some differences to that, and it's all in the rules on page 6. you'll see that if you've got, for argument's sake, the Germans use a SDKF Z250 with a mortar in it, then the driver will always have a ranking, because obviously there's a weapon on board, and it'll be him that determines where he goes and what he does and how he does it, rather than any passengers he carries. Minor points, all picked up in the rules, but just to say that your little plastic soldiers do have the ability to make decisions, and those decisions are based on their ranking and their ability, and that's what covered page 6 of the rules. Now, the last thing, which I'm going to leave entirely up to you, is how you lay your table out for a game. I'm not a great fan of random terrain. I know some people are. Clearly, if you're following a scenario in a magazine, they tend to give you a map. If you find something online, they tend to give you a map. If you're refighting a particular scenario, it's not that difficult to try and get the key features of whatever that scenario was and get them on the table. However you do that, I'm not going to dictate that. The rules don't dictate that. You do what you like. The other element is weather. Now, there's quite a big bit in Fight Your Own Wars about weather. If you have downloaded all 3 and you turn to that, you'll see that there is a way of working out what the weather is going to be for your game. But I have to say, for most games, the weather is considered to be pretty decent, and if there are any factors that change that, they tend to be picked up in the scenario details. So weather, not something we're going to worry about right now. And that's us done. That's all the pre-game stuff understood. What we're going to do next is to get some dice out and some soldiers out, and we're going to have a crack at playing a little game, and I'm going to try and walk you through how some of the heroes' all mechanisms work so that you understand them, and then you can get into working out how you move and fire and observe and all that other stuff as well. So that's what's coming in the next couple of little videos. Stay safe. Hope you enjoyed this. See you soon. Look, you know how this works. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and when more stuff arrives, you'll be the first to know.